Welcome to the You Can Man podcast, episode 47. I'm Josh.
I'm Tim.
And I'm Dave.
And on this week's episode, Mailboxes Etc.
All right, guys, welcome back to the You Can Man podcast, where we believe what one man can do, you can do as well. You know, with some proper know-how and help from your friends. Guys, friends, what happened this week?
I found out about a new hardware company. Have you guys ever heard of Harbor Freight?
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
All right, so I decided that I need a belt sander. And so I'm like looking around at belt sanders and I'm like, okay, I need a belt sander. So I'm checking these things out and I come across Harbor Freight and it's like $74 for a belt sander. And it blew me away. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe how cheap that was. And I was like, I think I need to go check out Harbor Freight. I haven't done it yet, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to head over to my local Harbor Freight. I'm going to check out their belt sanders.
You want to go hold it before you order it?
No, I feel pretty good. I mean, I'm very rarely going to use it. And if I get 3 uses out of it, I'll feel pretty good about that purchase.
Yes. Exactly. I don't know if we've mentioned that before specifically about Harbor Freight, but that is a technique to use Harbor Freight.
And look, here's my take too on Harbor Freight. Look, I don't care. I'll use anything Harbor Freight pretty much. I don't think I'd buy battery operated stuff from there quite yet, but it's probably honestly fine. But I would say
I've heard they're terrible, but
okay. If the right tool is keeping you from doing jobs and you're using that as an excuse, you ain't got the excuse because you got Harbor Freight. That's what I'm saying.
That's true. And I didn't, this is not my theory. I've heard this somewhere else, but in this case, I'm going to operate on this theory that if you have a tool, you buy a cheap tool, and if you use it enough that you break it, then you go buy the nice one. I think I might have mentioned that before on this podcast. I've heard that somewhere. It seems like a smart thing to do in this situation, so I'm going to try it out.
Yeah. Also, if it's not a precision tool,
right?
Not a precision instrument, Harbor Freight it.
Well,
there's certain things that you cannot screw up, right? We had a whole thread on our Facebook group recently about Harbor Freight because somebody posted some meme about getting underneath the car with Harbor Freight jacks. And I chimed in. I was like, look, bro, I would totally trust that if I was the one that placed the jacks. But I would totally trust that. I mean, I did all of my work on the Bronco using a Harbor Freight jack and a Harbor Freight engine hoist, which I still have. It sits at my friend Braden's house, but I still own it.
Oh, good to know.
But yeah, there's certain things you just can't screw up. Right. You know, like a floor jack, it's just, there's not a whole lot to it. Yeah. Right? Yeah. I mean, I guess you could say maybe the seals in it. Like
but if you're not an auto body shop, or a mechanic by trade, Harbor Freight jack is going to get you.
If you're
down
a weekend
the road.
warrior, okay. Now, Dave, do not go there without a coupon. Okay,
got to take a coupon. Well, I'm gonna have to swing by your house first. I think
there's a website you can show them coupons on your phone, so you don't have to print anything out.
I've been into a Harbor Freight one time. I don't remember what I got. I think I just hightailed it out of there.
I can't believe you've only been in a Harbor Freight once and you're a You Can Man host. Come on.
Look, buy once, cry once. That's how I usually roll. But in this case, I know I'm going to use a belt sander 1, 2, 3, or 4 times, and there's no way I'm buying a nice belt sander.
I think you're going to be fine.
It's a good purchase on Harbor Freight.
Well, looking at those got me. Then I started looking at drill presses, and I was like, man, they got cheap drill presses too. Like Josh said, don't buy precision tools.
Exactly. Yep. Now, I've got a drill press from Harbor Freight, and I will not do that again.
Okay, that's good to know.
I will not do that again. It's just you want precision in a drill press, and it is not. Yep. It is definitely not. Now, if I'm drilling a bunch of holes just in wood, and they don't have to be precise or something, perfect tool for it.
Well, I don't need a drill press, so precision wouldn't be important in that case, but I'm also not going to buy.
But you're going to get to a point where there's some time that you want to drill a nice hole through metal, and you're going to get frustrated if you get that Harbor Freight drill press.
I'm not buying one anyway. I just got excited. I was like, well, I could have a drill press too.
Yeah. All right, Josh, what's been up with you?
Not too much. My family has a lot of January birthdays. My immediate and extended family, and so I'm going to be going to like my third and fourth birthday party.
Whoa.
Next week. Some of the people overlap. Anyway, not important, but wow.
Have you been eating a lot of cake?
Trying not to. Not to, even though cake's my thing.
How old are these? Are these children's birthday parties or adults' birthday parties?
This ranges from my 5-year-old son to my mother-in-law.
Okay.
And there's like 3 people in between. So, yeah, lots of folks. We also, Dave and I, and my brother, who is one of those birthdays, he turned 30.
He's only 30?
Yeah, but he's my fourth brother.
Yeah, okay.
It does seem young. It does feel like he's older though, right?
Shout out to Jacob.
Happy birthday. Happy 30th.
Yeah, we did that and we did a race.
It was our Baker's Dozen race. It was the 13th. We redid the first one of the year, right?
Yeah, we did a race a month and then we did the January race for a second time and it was cold again, but all 3 of us set, I believe, like PRs.
I set a PR. I shaved 5 minutes off my 5K time from the previous year.
We all ran insanely fast compared to where we usually go. So
I should have done that with you.
You
guys.
should have done it.
I was concerned about my bum knee that's been acting up. But the day before, I went out and ran like 4.5 miles, and I was totally fine. So I totally could have done it. But it was the time that you guys were signing up. It was like a couple weeks out, and I was like,
you should have just done it. Should we mention that we sort of called off the tree burn this year, kind of because of that race?
We definitely did. Yeah.
I'm not proud of it, but I don't know. Like, I feel like we'll appreciate it more next year because we didn't have it this year.
There you go.
Yeah, I think so.
So I
feel like there was another year in there somewhere.
We've missed a year before. For people that don't know, we do an annual tree burn. Christmas tree burn out on some property, and it's glorious. We have a good time. But this year we just didn't do it. Didn't make it happen.
Too much stuff.
Everybody's got a lot going on.
Too much life.
Yeah. For sure. Okay, let's get into this topic, guys. Mailboxes, etc., which doesn't exist anymore, right?
It was a store at one point, wasn't it?
I don't think that they're around anymore.
I haven't seen one.
What did they do? What did they used to do?
They were a shipping company.
Yeah, but you could have a P.O. box there, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I think the UPS store kind of just overtook all that.
Because they would ship anything. They would do like FedEx, USPS,
right,
UPS. But yeah, I think UPS moved in.
I feel like
we'll take all that.
Because UPS, you can drop off USPS stuff too. Yep. Okay.
Yep. I didn't know that.
No, wait, I thought the whole episode was about that stuff.
Right. Sorry. People are like, turning this off. No, we're actually talking about mailboxes. And actually, before you turn this off and you think that that's super boring, it's not going to be boring.
Everybody's got to replace a mailbox at some point.
Everybody's got to replace a mailbox. So we're going to talk about maybe ways in which we've done this wrong before, the right way to do it, and also a new way to do it that you may have not thought of before. And when you hear it, you're like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense, but no one ever does that.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll just talk about why no one does that. Anyways, Dave, start off.
I'm gonna kick this off with how not to install a mailbox. Okay, so about 5 years ago, I bought a house, and when I moved in, this house didn't have several things were missing. It didn't
indoor plumbing.
No, it had indoor plumbing. It didn't have like knobs on the cabinets. The cabinets were new. They didn't put knobs on there. Okay, so thanks a lot, guys. Half the doors didn't close right. Many of the outlets didn't work. Didn't find that out until after I moved in. Also, it didn't have a mailbox. So the house was flipped. And
these flippers gave flippers a bad name.
Yeah, they did not do overall. They did not do a great job. But anyway, so there was no mailbox. I didn't make a big deal about it at closing because we just want to get the deal done. I was like, I can install a mailbox, not a big deal, and I get to pick my mailbox. So win-win. Okay, so the first weekend that we were there, my wife and I realized, hey, we need a mailbox quickly because we're going to start getting mail, and we need to make this happen. So I said, okay, I can do this, and I went to the local big box store. I bought a mailbox frame, the wooden part of a mailbox. I bought an actual box, and then I bought one of those gigantic 3-foot long spikes that you drive into the ground that the mailbox sits in, right? And so that is, I knew in my mind, I was like, this is not the right way to do this. I was like, but I'm operating on limited time.
Gotta go up.
I need to get a mailbox in the ground quickly, and this is a very quick way to do it. Also, I don't want to deal with concrete. I just want to make this happen. So I took the big gigantic spike nail thing, drove it into the ground. Another mistake that I made is I shouldn't say it's a mistake, but I stained the mailbox, the wooden frame, and it looked great for like 6 months, and now it looks terrible. So I drove the spike into the ground, put the mailbox in that base. It was stained. It looked great. 6 months later, it's super weathered. I haven't restained it, and it's super shaky, right? So that the spike that goes into the ground that holds onto the mailbox, it's not a secure way of doing it.
You didn't get it into the bedrock.
I didn't get it. There was no bedrock. The soil's soft, and it's just real.
So you haven't redone this?
I have not redone it. I think this episode was kind of born out of the idea of, hey, I need to redo my mailbox, and we should probably talk about this because people who are installing their mailboxes, I'm here to tell you, don't take the easy route. It's going to look terrible, and every time you touch your mailbox, it's going to be shaking back and forth. It's going to drive you crazy because it drives me crazy.
I feel like, tell me if you guys think I'm wrong on this. I feel like mailboxes are one of those things that people just don't want to think about.
Correct.
Well, they don't think about it.
If it's functional and it looks halfway decent, I don't want to touch it.
It's so utilitarian.
Yeah.
That it is not, unless there's some folks with like Tim, like rich folks with brick mailboxes.
Right.
Well, speaking of rich folk, okay, another mistake I made is I was like, I'm just buying the super basic mailbox that, is the cheap one. And it was like $25. Well, my buddy Josh sitting over here has the rich man mailbox, like the $100 one that has the big old handle on the front.
No, it wasn't that.
It's really nice looking. Like when you close it, there's a magnet.
Now,
and so he's acting like he's better than me with this fancy mailbox.
Let's just segue right into this then, because Josh's mailbox. Now, look, Josh, your previous mailbox was just fine. I'll have you know, okay, to let our listeners know.
It was, but it was like 10 feet away from the driveway.
Okay, I put it back right where it came from. But
the United States Postal Service does, they stipulate on their website, there are requirements for how far away from the street it needs to be, the height of the mailbox.
Yeah, but he's talking footage away from the actual driveway.
Yeah, it's down the yard. It was
I
down
got
the
you.
yard away.
It was like in the middle of the...
Yeah, okay. So
that's
to
weird.
bring our listeners up to speed, Josh bought the house from us. Like we kind of flipped a house across the street from us, and Josh and his wife bought it from us, kind of like mid construction, if you will.
Tim was like, "I'm done with this."
It was a perfect situation. I mean,
it was nice.
I won't get into all the details on that, but it was great. And I redid the mailbox as part of it. Now, I think this was after. I think I was just like, you know what?
This was probably like the week we moved in, because the day we moved in, the night we moved in, my wife went into labor.
Yeah, I think I was like, you know what? They need this mailbox needs some work. So I basically took it apart.
It was a metal mailbox.
Yeah, I kind of sanded it down. I painted it, and then I reinstalled it. Now, this was a metal mailbox, and then I drove down a steel pipe into the ground and then slipped the mailbox over that, I think. And it was like golden.
Yeah.
And I was like, I was really proud of that. And then I got my feelings kind of hurt, Josh, when y'all replaced that.
Because
I was like, you know what? It was perfect.
Why did you locate it 20 feet away from the driveway?
Put it where it was.
I put it where it was.
You just put it back where it was previously.
Yeah, but if you did step back, you were like, wow, that is really far from the driveway.
No, where you have yours now, and you have a nice mailbox now.
Well, it
is nice.
Don't get your feelings hurt. I'm just going to blame it on my wife, who wanted like a nice wood mailbox.
But we do agree that Tim is like Mr. Burns from The Simpsons, like with the super nice brick mailbox.
You haven't looked very closely at that thing.
Well, it could probably stand to be pressure washed, but aside from that,
I've pressure washed it before. It just gets nasty again. But I did not install the brick, nice big mailbox. It was there with the house. I would assume that they made it because it's the same brick. Yeah, we have a 1964 ranch house, and so they have this massive.
But Tim's driveway does have an entrance with brick pillars on both sides.
No, we don't have a brick pillar on the other side, but we have you're right, because we have got those crepe myrtles, and then we got this nice mailbox thing there. But I remember when we first moved in years ago and the mail guy stopping and he was like, they could tell you to change that mailbox because
move along. Come on.
The postal worker has to go into the driveway. It doesn't face the street. They have to go.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, it doesn't face the street. So they have to pull into the driveway or stop the vehicle, get out, and put the mail in the
irritating.
mailbox.
That's 37 seconds a day, man.
So that's why he's like, look, at any time.
Hey, it's our money. It's our taxpayer money, man.
If the postmaster, sorry, I'm wasting you guys' money. If the postmaster comes around and does like a random audit or something, which that was in 2009 and they haven't done anything. So I think I'm good.
Yeah. Well, they were hurting. The economy was down.
And the fact that mailbox has been like that since 1964.
Right.
So I think it's just fine. But yeah, it's got to be annoying for the postal workers. However, I was going to say too that UPS drivers hit that thing because it's like it's right at the perfect spot or something when they're pulling in. So I think it's been hit at least twice that I know of. Well, once I for sure know because the UPS driver came to our front door and he's like, look, I'm going to lose my job if you guys tell them that. And I'm like, what position are you putting me in right now? So he was like trying to.
You should have been like, first of all, you're in a union. You're fine.
Yeah. But I think he was trying to like pay us something. I was like, bro, it's fine. Yeah. You're good. We're not going to tell anybody. It's fine. And there's like a little chunk missing out of one of the bricks, but whatever.
All right. So we're going to segue from
the
incorrect way to
my abomination.
My basic way. So I did replace the mailbox that Tim had fashioned for us. We used it at least like 2.5, 3 years.
Yeah.
And that was probably an original mailbox. The way I did it was probably the way I think most people who don't want to cheap out but don't want to do anything too extravagant do it. So I went to the Home Depot and purchased, like Dave did, the wooden frame, the normal like T-shaped frame. Bought a mailbox to mount onto that, and I bought a bag of Quikrete, which is designed for this purpose. Not, non-structural holding of a post in a hole. Okay, not something you would use on deck or even a fence. Very limited use. Mailbox is probably one of those uses. So, what's nice about that stuff is you just dig a hole straight down, and I think you do it 3 times the diameter of your post. So if your post is 6 inches wide, you make a hole that's like 18 inches wide overall. Dig down. You have to regulate how far. This is the problem I had. The posts they sell at Home Depot, at least, are not that tall. When you sink that in the ground, I was hoping to get like 36 inches.
Whoa.
Like, down into the ground. Because I know in my mind, I'm like, if someone leans on that,
hit that thing with a freight train.
But I'm saying if it's only barely 2 feet down, which I think mine is, it might be 20 inches, not even 2 feet. If you lean on that good, like you can pop it out of the ground if you want to. And I don't like that. So, but I was handcuffed by the height of this pole. Now, I could have bought my own post and tried to build out my own mailbox. Maybe I'll do that next time. But
it's weird because I thought that my mailbox frame was really long because I used the gigantic nail to install it. And I had to saw off, like 2 feet of it. So I was like, this thing's way too long.
So I had the opposite problem. It didn't go far enough for my liking. So all I did, again, dug a hole, put some gravel in the bottom, and that allows any water that does get all the way through somewhere to go without sitting against the bottom of the post.
It's built-in drainage.
And what I love about Quikrete, about this specific product is, and there's ratios involved, but you basically dump the bag in dry into the hole, and then you just pour a gallon or whatever of water down in the hole.
You mix it in the hole.
You don't even mix it. You don't even mix it. It's designed. You just spray all in it.
You just get it wet.
Let it sit. There is no mixing involved. And I forget how long I let it go overnight or 24 hours, but it gets pretty tight within a few hours. That concrete starts setting up. Now, again, this is not structural concrete. It is not designed to carry loads or anything like that. But that was an easy afternoon project. And
Did you think about coating the post with anything?
I didn't think about it. No.
Like with tar or something like that? Because I'd like to. I don't know enough about. I mean, I've always heard like you should do that, and I know guys swear by that.
I'm sure it cannot hurt.
Yeah, I don't think it could hurt either. But
at least the end grain, I've heard. Prime
for
that,
sure.
like prime with primer, like
because that's where it's going to really soak it up.
Yeah. So I didn't think about it because, and again, this is not an excuse or a good reason, but in my mind, I'm like, I'm burying wood, and that's not ideal in any situation. I'm putting wood underground. Now, it's probably going to last me 8 to 10 years, which is plenty fine for how much money I spent and how much time I spent, but I just kind of had that mentality of, it's going to rot away at some point anyway. So,
right. Okay. So that's essentially the basic way to do that.
That's the way you should, like, that is the way you should do it if you want a sturdy mailbox.
Yeah. You're not going to go wrong doing that. Yep. Like you shouldn't, if you do that right, you shouldn't have rot issues. Maybe 10, 15 years down the road, you'll probably maybe start having some sort of issue. But you should be pretty well taken care of it if you do that right.
Yep.
Yeah,
that's how most people's mailboxes are installed.
Okay,
that's the
so
way
we
to
would
do it.
suggest that. I think you'll be good if you do it that way. Now we were thinking, look, best case scenario, I don't bury that wood. So why in the world wouldn't we just do a concrete pier? I don't know. I've never seen anybody do this.
Explain what you told us, like, as we sat down around the table.
Okay, so my job, I work as a structural engineer, and the group that I'm in, we specialize in wood construction, and you just don't put any kind of wood member below grade. Okay, when I say below grade, basically, into the ground. You don't put wood into the ground
as a rule.
As a rule, because wood rots, pretty easily. So when moisture gets to it, even if it's pressure treated, over time it's gonna deteriorate. So you just don't put. There's a lot of water in the ground, in the soil. Soil is just inherently there's a lot of water in it, and so you're going to get a lot of rot if you put it below grade. Now, when you encase it in concrete, that does obviously offer protection, but it kind of just occurred to all of us. So they make these things, they're bases that you sit a post on, and you actually set this base, you set it in concrete, and then you can put wood on top of that steel base, and that keeps the wood off of the ground, kind of away from the moisture. They're intended for structural applications, which this is not. You wouldn't consider a mailbox a structural component, but it kind of got my wheels turning. I'm like, maybe I could just be a good steward, to my profession and install my new mailbox using one of these standoff bases. So
you would never have to mess with that because
you wouldn't, and it could also, you can replace it easily.
That's what I mean. Yeah, you could replace it.
You could replace the mailbox frame pretty easily. So you basically would bolt your post to this mailbox frame. Now I'm thinking about it, and these bases are not really intended. I don't think they're intended for that type of application, but I think it might work out.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Those standoff bases are just more or less intended for a direct downward load, meaning
so a downward load and a lateral load at the base of that post. So they're not designed for what we call a moment, or what you'd probably think of as like a torque. So basically somebody hanging onto the mailbox, leaning onto the mailbox, pushing it.
Yeah, because that is going to happen. Now they
do make standoff bases that are designed for those types of loads, but they're very expensive, and you probably can't pick them up at the local big box store.
Yeah, I feel like that there's like 4x4 standoff post things that are.
Wouldn't you want it to come up like at least 6 inches up the post or something like that?
Because they even have like decorative ones.
They do. Too. So yeah, they're like architectural spec ones that they look really good, and they're very nice. They're also expensive.
So in the end, where you're using concrete anyway, if you're doing my application, you're having to deal with concrete. Now you're going to use nicer concrete. Probably in this situation.
Well, you got to have
you pour a pier.
Yeah, and you're going to want to use the sono tube as well, right?
Yeah, to make it look nice.
I'm using the correct term there, yes?
Sonotube.
Sonotube, sorry. To let our listeners know, it's basically just a cardboard tube that you use to pour concrete piers, so you probably want to use that as well. I guess nobody's going to do this because...
I don't know, man. Maybe we'll start a trend.
I'm probably just going to use Quickcrete, to be honest with you.
It's just so much more work.
But if you can envision it, it's obviously more expensive, it's more work, but... you have an interchangeable mailbox now that, the wood will probably never rot, so maybe you'll never need to replace it because you're keeping it above grade. But in the case that you ever wanted to, you could.
Yeah, if it gets damaged, if it starts to look ugly, if you just want a new mailbox frame, or you could replace it fairly easily.
Yeah, if you just want to show off too and let your neighbors know.
Just changing out my mailbox, it's no big deal.
I know what's up. I'm on the cutting edge of mailbox installation.
Yeah, and you could, if you're worried about having this concrete pier and everything, I think you could do it in such a way to where you bring that up like right at dirt level, or maybe, slightly above. Well, you'd want it slightly above.
Yeah, a little above grade.
And then you could always, cover that up with mulch so you don't see that.
Yeah.
So it would appear, other than the thing that the post is sitting in, it's just like any other mailbox.
Yeah. Well, we'll look
all right,
forward
somebody in the Facebook group. All right, you guys do this and then show
probably
us.
A couple guys that have already done this.
Yeah, they're probably like rookies. Yeah. Okay. I thought you're supposed to do that.
Yeah.
But anyways, and actually I was thinking too, they make also bases where you drill a hole up through the post to where you don't even really see the standoff. Like you see a gap at the bottom of it, and then it's like basically like a little block.
And then a rod goes up.
And then a rod goes up through.
That's another way.
I don't think I've seen that one. The one that I'm thinking of is almost like a knife. It's like a knife plate that sticks up. So you would cut a slot in the base of the post.
And then there's a dowel in it.
Yep. It slips down over that kind of knife edge, and then you would dowel it or use a bolt or something.
Okay, I've seen those as well. But yeah, I've actually done. Now that I think about it, I did a pergola project, and I used that kind of style.
Very common on that type of construction.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
it can be done.
Yeah, okay.
It will be done.
So you've heard about Dave's blunder. You've heard about you can't go wrong method.
It's tried and true,
Josh
baby.
Did. And then we talked about a better way that none of us have tried. So we want to hear from you guys.
I'm going to try it out. I'll let you guys know how it goes.
Ooh.
Yeah,
Challenge.
So we hope that this wasn't like crazy boring for you guys. I thought it was actually kind of interesting.
Like everybody wants a nice mailbox, okay?
Yeah.
So install it the right way.
Yeah, one more word about mine is yes, it involved concrete, it involved going to the store, it involved digging a hole, but it was so easy. It's like 4 hours in and out. The longest part is waiting for the concrete to dry overnight, and just go ahead and do it right. Don't use the metal spike.
Don't do it.
Yeah. All right, guys, that's going to do it. Dave, I think you've got the segment this week.
I got it.
Okay. So, guys, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, Dave's got the segment for us.
This episode is sponsored by 1776 United. 1776 United is a patriotic and historically inspired lifestyle brand. They make the best patriotic shirts and apparel on the market today. I personally own many of their products, and if you want to don patriotic gear without looking gaudy, check them out on Instagram, Facebook, and at 1776united.com.
All right, guys, welcome back. If you're just joining the UK Man podcast, you should know that we do a bonus segment every week. And it's basically one of us will do it each week, and the other two guys have no idea what the guy that's doing it is going to say. So we got no clue what Dave's bringing to the table tonight. Dave, what you got for us?
So tonight we're going to do... I started to say it's going to be the final act. I don't know if it's going to be the final act.
I think you said that last time.
We're going to circle back and do one more episode of Not Blade Banter.
Hey, it's a popular segment.
I'm almost positive that you said last time,
yes,
this is the last installment of
Well, this is definitely the last installment.
Can you do it like 3 more times, and every single time just say that?
I could do this every day and be cool, but I know I got to pump the brakes a little bit because I love pocket knives a little too much, and I know that a lot of people don't share that love that I do. I'm just trying to spread it a little bit. And also, so I had a 3-part series last time, and it just never sat well with me that I didn't close this thing out the way that I needed to. So that's what we're going to do tonight on this episode of Not Blade Banter.
All right.
Okay, so here we go. Tonight's episode is going to deal with sharpening your pocket knife. And not just your pocket knife, but every knife in your house.
Okay.
So I have a question for you guys. Kind of the reason that I started thinking about, wanting to do this segment. how do you guys sharpen like your kitchen knives?
I have never sharpened a knife.
That is what the reason that I know that that's true is because
I don't own any sharpening tools.
I know you don't, because we watched your middle son the other night. So you guys dropped him off for a little while so that you could take, your other son out for birthday. And so he was hanging out with us, and I'm cleaning out the dishwasher like a good husband. And I pull out one of the kitchen knives out of the dishwasher, pull out my sharpener, give it a couple quick swipes. And your son says, he's looking at me, just like boring holes into the back of my head. And I hear him go, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "You've never seen your daddy do this, have you?" He's like, "No." And so I was like, "Look, man, I'm sharpening this knife. You got to do it." Okay, so Josh has never done it. Tim, how do you sharpen kitchen knives?
Josh, I've got a Harbor Freight sharpener.
Yeah, you do. Is it like one of those drag through thing? Oh gosh. All right. So we don't ever want to use those. Okay, those are bad.
Whatever.
That's bad. We don't want to use those.
Whatever.
So I'm going to talk about 3 different types of knife sharpeners tonight.
Wow.
Ways to sharpen your knife. Listen, if you have a pocket knife, you need to get yourself a way to sharpen that pocket knife.
Owning a knife, you must know this skill. I agree.
You absolutely must know it.
Even though I don't.
This is almost for a lot of people.
I do have a stone, but I don't. Maybe you can show me how to do this now. But I have a stone, but which I think is from Harbor Freight as well.
I'm sure it is.
But I don't think I've ever really used.
Well, for this is like a hobby for a lot of people. So people kind of view it as a way to relax and like unwind. It's kind of weird.
You can see that's like cleaning your gun.
Yeah, cleaning a gun.
I feel like, correct me if I'm wrong here, guys, but I feel like people have got some very strong opinions on how to go about sharpening knives.
There are very strong opinions on it. I could go through. We could have a whole curriculum on kind of the theory behind sharpening a knife. There's a lot of geometry involved. It's actually a pretty simple thing to do. It's something that's very hard to do well though. So that's why you have people who sharpen knives professionally. I mean, you can pay a lot of money to have somebody sharpen your knives, which I know people do that. They'll send their knives off to be sharpened. Anyway, you don't want to do that. We want to teach you how to sharpen your knife. We want to give you the tools to do that. So the first and most basic form of the way to sharpen a knife, which Tim already mentioned, is just a simple stone. Maybe you'd call it a whetstone. What I have, and I know people listening to this can't see this, but how would you describe what I'm holding? It's almost like it's like a king size Snickers bar.
Yes,
it's kind of how it's shaped, and when I pull the Snickers bar out, it's a stone that you basically drag the knife across.
That looks fancy.
It looks expensive.
It's not. No. This was like $15 at home.
Really?
Yeah, from Home Depot.
Huh.
So these are super cheap, and this is kind of the most basic way to sharpen a knife. It's just a stone that you slide the edge of the knife across, and it sharpens the blade.
Let our listeners know it's a double-sided stone that has
you got a coarse side and
sheath.
A fine side.
It's in a sheath, just like a knife kind of would be. Okay, that's interesting. So it kind of gives you a handle to hold it.
Yeah, so you're
holding this.
You're holding onto the stone, and you're swiping the knife across it. Now, this is very inexpensive. It's very easy to use, but it's hard to use well. Okay, so there's a lot of kind of human error involved in here, and you can, if you really don't know what you're doing, you kind of mess your knife up a little bit. So this is probably the first thing that anybody would buy. It's the easiest to get a hold of, and it's they're relatively easy to use. Okay, so that's number one. The second type of knife sharpener is what I would call like a guided system. Okay, so this is the Spyderco Sharp Maker.
Dave's opening a plastic case.
I'm opening up a plastic case, and this comes with stones as well. But this, you set these stones down in a base in kind of a V formation.
Okay,
and then you hold your knife straight up and down, and you drag your knife down the stone. Okay.
Interesting.
So if you look at this thing, we'll put pictures up. You can see that the benefit of this is this keeps the angle of your blade consistent.
If you just have the stone that you're holding, the chances of you getting the angle correct against that stone is slim to none. So the stone is already angled for you, and provided you keep the blade
straight up and down,
and you run it across this stone that's already angled correctly for you, then you're going to do it right.
It's much more precise, and it's easier to. I mean, there's not a huge learning curve
what's
involved
the price,
with this.
What's the price tag on that?
This was, I think, like $70. This little system, about $70 for a
Quite a
little.
jump. It's
Yeah,
quite a jump.
if you're serious about doing it right.
If you got a $300 knife, you probably want a $70 sharpening system.
Yeah, it's not, I mean, it's something that'll last, I would think
and that's
forever.
made by Spyderco.
It's made by Spyderco, which is a very prominent knife maker in the, quality knife realm.
All right. What else you got for us?
I don't have, so the last one that I'm going to talk about, I don't have, okay, but I desperately want. Okay, so it's another type of guided knife sharpener. When I say guided, it sets the angle for you. And there are several ones out there. There's something called the Edge Pro, which basically it's like a little bench, and it has a metal rod that you push in and out of the slider, and you just slide this metal rod with a stone on it up and down a blade. Okay, and that is a very, very exact system. It comes with varying courses of stones, and so they get progressively finer, and you can get like an actual mirror finish.
Oh, wow.
Like you can literally see yourself on the edge of your knife. So it's the Edge Pro. Go check these things out. They're crazy expensive, like $250. But then kind of the nicest one out there, the one that, is kind of the one to get is called a Wicked Edge, and those are just crazy expensive. Again, it's another guided system.
What are we talking when you say crazy?
I mean, they have different levels of it, and they start at like $300 and go up to like $1,200, I think.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, crazy expensive.
Is that something that the professional guy would use?
Professional guys do use them. So it's kind of, it's a little bit of a, I don't know if it's a dichotomy, but the whetstone is like, that's the most pure way to sharpen a knife. And people that are really into the hobby, that's kind of like the only way. I'm not going to say it's the only way that they would say to do it, but that's like, that is the one that's, really
you're in touch with your knife.
You are in touch with your knife if you're using a whetstone. Yeah. You can get very, very professional results off of a whetstone if you know what you're doing, but it's a skill that you really have to kind of build up to. These guided systems allow you to get excellent results with not a lot of experience.
It's
I guess you could
it's
say.
like woodworking and power tools. There's like some guys that are super purist on like, I don't want to run a miter saw and whatever.
Well, that's why when Tim said,
saw.
it's one of those drag through kind of knife sharpeners, that's just, that is heresy. Okay.
Look, man, for my quality of kitchen knives, that's what I'm using it on, not my pocket knives, really.
Even still, brother. It goes against everything.
It works, man. Just a few runs through that thing and it's sharper.
I don't think we need to compare edges.
Can you, this might be getting too deep, but like I have a knife set that's like a serrated or a scalloped edge. Can you use these sharpeners on those?
You can not use either of these on a serrated edge. So a serrated edge you would use, it's almost like a file. It's like a dowel.
Okay.
And that's how you would sharpen a serrated edge.
You have to do it individually.
You have to do it individually.
Is that the proper term? I don't know.
Yeah, serrated edges. I've actually never sharpened a serrated edge because I don't think any of my knives have serrated edges on them. Those tend to be a little bit more robust. They do need to be maintained and sharpened, but they're a little bit more robust and I guess don't require sharpening as much. Somebody's probably going to call me out on that and say that's totally wrong. But in my experience, that's the case. But yeah.
Okay. Well, that was interesting. Yeah, we'll try to post.
I'm getting a whetstone. I own a couple of semi-decent pocket knives now, thanks to you. And
you're welcome. I don't want to tell you not to do that, but I own a whetstone and it has caused me so much stress and anger because I've put in the time to use this thing and to try it. And then I check my knife and I'm like, I'm pretty sure this is duller than when I began this exercise, which is very frustrating. So yeah, whetstones are a whole nother game.
Well, I'm not spending $70.
You could spend, so like I said, this is a diamond stone. It has, I think, like actual diamond kind of dust embedded in it, which makes it, that allows it to cut the blade, the material off the blade to get it sharp. And I get really good results with this thing, this $15 sharpener from Home Depot.
You're not counting that as a whetstone.
Yes, Dave is.
I'm not counting my...
And you're holding
my
up
Snickers bar sharpener as a whetstone.
Yeah, he's holding up the double-sided stone.
The Snickers bar.
The first one that he talked about that's only like the $15 thing.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll post links to all of this on our show notes. on our website so everybody can see pictures of this stuff. But that was interesting. I didn't know. I'd never seen one that the guided thing like you've got on the tabletop there. So
well, my whole point is if you use my knife buying guide and buy one of those fantastic knives that I mentioned, you've got to have a way to sharpen it. So get out there, get yourself a knife sharpener.
All right. Well, thanks for the
sharpening
bonus
tips.
Segment of
just filling you guys full of knowledge.
Bonus segment of not Blade
It is
Banter.
the last episode of Not Blade Banter.
Right. Cool. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in to the You Can Man podcast. Make sure you check out our Facebook group page. We've got tons of activity on there. I was just telling the guys that I almost can't keep up with some of the stuff happening on there because I'll just log on and be like, wow, there's 12 more comments on this. Right. And so
keep it going, guys. We love it.
Keep it going. Everybody's helping each other out, and it's been great. Take some time to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts because that helps other people find us as well. So that would be really helpful for us. And take a few minutes and share this podcast with a friend that you think might enjoy listening to it as well. We'll catch you guys next time.